I'm Abhi Seeth, and you're listening to Connected by mParticle, where we interview the people that help create some of the most beloved brands in the world. These folks have a unique ability to bring together seemingly unrelated people and technologies to deliver some truly amazing results. It turns out that there are advantages to being late in adopting a digital strategy. In this episode, I sit down with Renee of Sustrene Grene and Casper of Vertica to discuss how they leveraged the wisdom of hindsight to bring a beloved brick and mortar retail experience into the digital world. For the audience, maybe would you mind introducing yourself and telling the audience what you do? And maybe Casper, I'll go with you first.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. So yeah, my name is Kasper Christensen. I'm based in Denmark at a company called Vertica, and I simply just love data. And being a UXer by trade, I just find it magical to be able to build and optimize experiences based on data, and also to get to know the value of what you help create. That's also quite magical. And in my book, a great user experience starts by having clear goals and about what success look like and how to measure it. And that is also why I work with data and tracking. And in this context, I've been helping Søstrene Grene with investigating what kind of CPP they should have and help them get it implemented as well. Just a note on the company I work with, Vertica, which helped build the e-commerce solution for Søstrene Grene. We design, develop, and improve the e-commerce omnichannel solutions for larger business to consumer and business to business companies. So that's just a bit about me.
Well, you'll have to hold that thought on UI, UX, and designing experiences and how that ties to data. There's a big topic there. But Renee, I'll turn it over to you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Abby, and thanks for having me. If I should introduce myself, I'm actually fairly new to Søstrene Grene. I've been working at Søstrene Grene for about a year now. And my position at Søstrene Grene is that I'm a media and martech manager. At Søstrene Grene, we have insourced all specialist areas connected to media buying, and I'm actually the manager of this team. On top of the whole media buying, I also have the responsibility, some responsibility at least, with regards to our martech stack, meaning which technologies we should invest in from a marketing standpoint. And before I started working at Søstrene Grene, I actually had 6 years at a big international media agency called Dentsu, which you might know. Here I had my last position at Dentsu was head of digital in Denmark, meaning that I had the responsibility for our digital execution and partly our data setup in a marketing context. At Dentsu, we invested quite heavily in a DMP, but I'm sure we're going to cover that later
definitely. on. I wouldn't had to take the opportunity. Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. Should I put some words into who's Søstrene Grene, what kind of company we are?
Yeah, I mean, I think this segues really nicely, Renee. Would love sort of, a little intro to...
Yeah, sure. Because I'm not sure that any US based customers know who Søstrene Grene is.
And apologies, I will, I have to work on my pronunciations, right?
Yeah.
But Søstrene Grene, I'm trying to get that. And I apologize if I butcher it, but yes, I would love to hear.
We have a letter in the Danish language that is called Ø, and I know that is really difficult for any foreigners to actually pronounce.
I'm going to work on it. I promise. This is, yeah.
If you want the English translation, I think it's Søstrene Grene.
Søstrene Grene. Okay. Yeah,
I think that's what comes the closest, at least.
Well, awesome. But yes, I mean, I agree with you. I don't think many, although, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you might have a presence here in the US and,
right.
You guys clearly operate in a lot, globally. But yeah, what the heck is Søstrene Grene?
Exactly. Well, Søstrene Grene is actually a retail company that started to operate out in Denmark back in 1973. And the focus already at that time was actually that we wanted to try to create a very different store experience with focus on experiences with our brand and the products that we sell. So what we did was actually we tried to build a store experience that was very atypical of the time. So we wanted to be, everything should be embraced around that it should be an experience when stepping into a Sustainable store. So what we, if you have the chance to go into a Sustainable, you'll be able to recognize what I'm saying now. So we always play classic music, because one of the founders was actually ballet master, or I don't know what that is called in English actually, but he was in the ballet world.
Okay.
And the store is actually built almost like a maze. So and it's very carefully made so that you get the experience that we actually intend you to have. The smell is very different from other retailers. And we have a very certain light setting, which is almost like a theater. And also our prices and signs in the store are actually very old fashioned, because what we want it to be is actually that you are stepping into some sort of time capsule, so that you actually can step away from your everyday busy life and just have a really calm and relaxed experience with Sustainable. What we try to embrace is that the experience should actually build the brand. And that's also what sets us aside from other retailers, I would say, because everybody can sell painting, furniture, or candles.
Right.
But what we try to do is actually to sell the experience that follows. So how can I use my furniture in a new and creative way? How can I use my candles in, for instance, a new DIY setting or something like that? So the experience is really what sets us aside.
I really like the way you're laying this out. And it's clear to me, right? Sure, it's retail, and we can argue, to your point, like a lot of maybe some individual products are very commoditized, right? I mean, consumers have a lot of choices, but what I love, and this is going to translate into the digital world almost, like a blueprint, is everything about this physical experience, right? Is different. It's unique, and it's purposely built and designed to take a customer from the time they walk through the door, through a very curated experience,
Exactly.
right? And
exactly. And this is all the things we want the customer to think about when they think about Sustainable. And again, this is what really sets us aside. But this has also been a very, very big challenge when looking into making Sustainable into a digital experience as well. Because how do you take this very physical experience and make it digital? And that is very challenging. And that's maybe also why it took us so long before we actually made Sustainable work in digital platforms. It was actually not that long ago. I think it was back in 2020 when Corona was here, and we had to close all the stores due to Corona.
Right.
And we needed to have a sales channel because we couldn't sell any products with our physical stores closed, and we didn't have a web shop at that time. So that is actually when we accelerated the whole process, and we had a really good collaboration with Casper and his team at Vertica, setting up a web shop for the very first time. And we actually added an omni layer to the whole business, since customers can now find us both in a digital presence, but also in a physical presence. And what we've actually seen is that it's actually added a layer to the physical presence as well, because now we can get more scale, we can reach more customers, and we can actually show them who are Sustainable, and then they can visit the stores and of course buy, or they can buy online. So it's been such an amazing and fantastic journey. Also seeing that we might have been a late starter, but now we're actually able to not do all the mistakes that we have seen everybody else do. So we can actually do it the very best way.
And I think also, if I can chip in here,
of course,
it was extremely well received when it launched. So the excitement was just really great from the customers. And I think one of the things that I really think is setting Sustainable aside is the sense of exploration you get when you enter one of the stores. You find all the quirky areas, and then there's a find here. I found this product. There's a huge sense of that, and that's what we are hoping also to get to the customers when they go digital, or find Sustainable digital.
It is such an amazing, I mean, I love the way you guys painted this picture, because, I think any organization, right, whatever stage they are, whether you're digital native, or in this case, you have such a beloved brand that's sort of clearly has, global international brand recognition. And again, I think through those experiences, you build a level of love and joy and just ultimately like just inherent loyalty, right? Because when you're going into, a Søstrene Grene store, you're getting a particular type of experience. And I think let's hold that thought, guys, because I think a big part of what I want to geek out and ask you guys is, you guys, I got to, pump you guys up a little bit, give you a little credit. That is no easy task, I think, to come in as, somebody leading a digital marketing initiative, Kasper, somebody coming in and literally building the experience of, I think, such a strong brand, right? It's like you really can't screw it up. I mean, that same level of loyalty and experience and quality has to transfer to the digital world. So
I would say that we were actually quite afraid at that time.
Yeah.
I was not working at Søstrene Grene back then, but I heard from my colleagues that we were actually quite afraid of what the whole digital part of Søstrene Grene would actually do to the business as a whole, because it is such a physical experience when you go into Søstrene Grene. And as you say, we have really loyal customers. And what would they actually think about us being digital? And maybe not satisfying their idea of how Søstrene Grene should be in a digital world. So that was actually a bit terrifying for us. But as Kasper mentioned, it was extremely well received. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to share this, but what the heck?
We can always cut it out.
Yeah. On the opening day, we actually got a new order. I think it was every 5 seconds.
Wow.
So yeah, it was amazing. We hadn't hoped for something like that. So yeah, it was really, really well received and just a token of appreciation from our customers. Also for us to see that this was actually a step in the right direction.
Yeah. You guys have clearly worked in this ecosystem and this space now for many, many years. And I think, as we know, what online experiences look like and the underlying technologies to enable some of these experiences has probably changed. Well, not probably, I think we all know has changed like very dramatically. I think in the last, say 10 years. Given both your backgrounds in sort of data consumer experience space, what are some of the biggest changes you've seen in the way organizations leverage data for marketing and customer experience, as maybe, say, compared 5 to 10 years ago?
Well, I think it's interesting that you have us both, because you will, I think, on some level, you will get some different answers from René and me, because we have different ways into this. René is much stronger than me on the marketing side of it. That's his bread and butter. Where I'm more on the website and the app and all those aspects of it. And really for me, so the customer experience, at least for somebody like me, is very much about data. And all our customers at Vertica know that a great experience is key for success. At least they do that now. And there's been a transition the last 20 years where I've been, as a UX, of course, understanding this is the case, you need to do this. I really think there's very much an understanding of this at the moment, that great experiences is a key to success. But a great experience is not universal. You also need to understand it. And some customers think that we should just do as the next company is doing, but that's really not the case. And there was that worry for Søstrene Grene, as well, as René talked about just a moment ago. Were we going to be just another brand when we were online? What would set us apart when we were also an e-commerce company? So every brand has a unique relationship with their customers. And also in a B2B context, it's even more important. We also work with B2B customers, because an e-commerce solution is really their customers' tool for creating commerce. It's their way of doing business together. And understanding that relationship between the company and the customers and the context is really key to creating great customers experiences. And in that context, really, data is the foundation for the decisions, small and large.
I wouldn't say that I disagree with you, Kasper, on that. But It's very hard to actually, I think. But from a sustainability perspective, as I mentioned before, we might have been some slow starters, seeing that we didn't have a digital presence until 2020. But since then, we've really turned the page, and we are really investing heavily in the digital landscape, and of course user data as well, because we know that data is of course the way to build an effective infrastructure today, but also in the way we need to make the right decisions. We need to look at data and what our customers are telling us in order to move in the right direction. In general, we've actually put the digital business on the very top of System-Agrene's transformation strategy. So it's actually something that is being discussed top level at System-Agrene, so on C-level. And it's something that is really prioritized by the whole C-level. And we are actually trying our very best to make as many decisions outside in, looking at the data we have from customers, and use it in as many departments as possible, also in the buying department. So seeing what kind of products do our customers demand, what kind of content are our users actually engaging with on the website and on different platforms that you meet System-Agrene. The shift from us has probably been that data up until now has lived in various different systems. So it's been living in Google Analytics. For starters, it's been living in Salesforce. We are quite heavily Salesforce client as well. Of course, it's also been living in Google Ads. It's been living in Facebook. It's been living in or Meta. So various different places.
Yep.
And what we needed to do was actually to take control of that data. If we wanted to have a true 360 view of our customers and truly be customer data driven, we knew that we had to do something here. So, and that's of course also part of the reason why we're here today. We invested in a CDP, we invested in mParticle, and that has been a game changer for us, because now we're able to look at standardized data from all the platforms, because now we're actually we're standardizing it to fit into mParticle. But that also means that if we see a customer on our app or on our web platform or on Salesforce or on Facebook, we actually have a combined view of that audience or that user, and that is just a game changer to all customer data that we are in contact with.
It starts with good data, right? Yeah. Because to your point, there's something like no personalization. Then there's a generic, hey, everyone's going to get the same experience. And then there's sort of, I think what you guys are hinting at, which is, how do I go from generic to talking to people individually, to conveying
exactly.
And I think what I've heard here is like, that's maybe the biggest shift from how organizations, how digital worked maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, to maybe its evolution now. It's this idea that it's not just data, like we had data for a while, but then it's how do we organize and I guess construct data in this way that tells us something about these individual people that we do business with.
You're totally right. I would say that it's all about building the right foundation.
Yeah. Yep.
So having the right foundation, if you don't have a right foundation, how can you build on top of that?
Yep.
So and the CDP is just a great tool for us to have that foundation and to have what we like to call one source of truth.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it brings up an interesting topic, right? Like we're talking about structuring data in this way that allows us to better personalize experiences for customers we clearly have a relationship with. And so System-Agrene never had a problem with that, right? Loyalty was always just an expected, outcome of the thought and care that the brand had always put into their experience. But now it's, how can we listen to some of those signals and tailor that to users? But it brings another interesting question. I want to go back to sort of, it's something that I think is always, like there's a lot of like buzzwords I think thrown around in just technology, right? CRM, CDP, DMP, like there's just so many head spinning technologies, first party cookie versus third party cookie. On that topic of data management, data organization, there are two technologies I wanted to ask you guys about, DMP versus CDP.
Yeah.
From your perspective, guys, what do you think, like, even if it's not a particular, philosophically, right? What do you think a DMP is, and what needs, does it still serve? And then sort of how is that different than CDP in your view?
So when back then, back in the days when I worked at Dentsu, DMP was really hot, and it was actually, I would say that a CDP and a DMP are basically the same. They're technologies to handle vast amount of data, and actually also a way to take control of data. They actually both do that. But what sets them apart, I would say, is the way the data they process. A DMP, I would say, is more quantity based. So it's more about the amount of data you put into the platform. Back in my agency days, we bought data from various media partners in order to get scale into our media buying, and it worked really well. I think back then it was actually the right way to go. But then came GDPR, and then came ad tracking transparency, and all those things, or in general, just privacy became a thing. And that actually, for me at least, phased out the need for a DMP. And instead, a CDP emerged. I know that CDPs has been out there for quite some time, but it became more a need because now cookies, we know that cookies at some point are going to go away. Of course, there's going to be other IDs you can tap into, but you never know what Google or Apple or systems like that can actually do, or what they will be doing tomorrow. So from our standpoint, it was more like, how can I take control of data? How can we take control and actually decide what is going to happen? And that brought about first-party data, and us actually trying to get more first-party data from our customers, because that's a relation that we control. And I would say a first-party ID is much more unique. So you have a much better idea of who your customer are, how they actually interact with you on different platforms. That's much more quality into working in CDPs and working with first-party data.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing that René came first, because he's been working in the marketing world and having that focus. And I think in that world, the DMP makes perfect sense. I have been making sense for back in the days. My focus, as I've been hinted at, is more continuing the owned conversation on owned medias. So being relevant all the time, and when you reach out to a customer, when the customer reach out to you, you continue that conversation that you have been having. So you don't start from scratch. Bringing that level of relevance to the customer creates a more intimate relationship, which can only benefit both the customer and the brand. So that's really been my focus. So I don't know that much about DMP. So well done, René.
I think you're onto something here as well that I forgot, because the other cool thing about going from third-party data or cookies to first-party data is also the activation layer of it.
Right.
Because cookies are very difficult to activate on various different platforms. You need another sort of ID, and for instance, an email could be an example of first-party data. That's much easier for us to actually activate on various platforms. And also, given that we now have an app, and we have a website, and we have different media outlets, we want to be personalized every time you meet Søstrene Grene. We need it to be a personal experience to you. And that's also something that we can actually build into the whole CDP activation layer of it, at least.
It's almost like there's two analogies, right? Like, I feel like it's aggregate versus, one-to-one or personalized. Yeah. It's third party versus first party. It's, I'm going to let sort of the ecosystem of, data onboarders and third party data stores dictate my strategy, versus me saying I'm going to control and curate my own direct relationships with my customers. And I think there's so many parallels that I think those two, at least to me personally, like in working with clients, that to me is the biggest difference, right? To your point, René, there's like, I think two fundamental convergent like things that happened that made this shift happen. One, to your point, is yeah, what are the big, the owners of the web browsers, the owners of the app stores, what do they have to say about, this wonderful technology at a point in time from an ad tech perspective, which is a third-party cookie, right? I mean, it was retargeting and third-party cookies
Yeah.
from a technology perspective was absolutely amazing, fantastic. It created, whole industries, multi-billion dollar companies, and, gave us a lot in sort of like the agency, client-facing digital world, a lot of work to do, right? A lot of exciting things to work on. But I think the combination of the deprecation of third-party tracking combined with the governmental laws, and it seems like, this is just sort of more of a global thing. I know GDPR in Europe's leading the way, but, we are seeing privacy become sort of a fundamental component of this. And I think for those two reasons, right, if you don't have a direct relationship with your customer, you outsource that.
I think this is actually another thing that the CDP has introduced, which is really important, and that's the whole aspect of data hygiene. So with a DMP where you're collecting cookies, there's not much hygiene to that. You're actually you're trying to build scale. Whereas with a CDP, of course there is some hygiene to it, but
sure.
With the CDP you need some more because you need to be able to tell the customer why are you tracking me on this and this and this platform. So we need to again take control of our own data, and we need to have that layer of hygiene to it, and the whole permission side of CDPs is really important to us at System Grene. Always being aware of what what do we have permission to do with this and this user, and that's something we've gotten with the CDP.
Yep.
Well, I think there's also something there that affects the relationship based on those two technologies. So for DMP, you could buy data about the customers, and that would somehow influence the conversation you have. So you suddenly know about their children or their income and something like that. That's not been introduced naturally in that conversation. And that can somehow shift that level of conversation you have. And for some brands, that can be more than other brands. But I'm guessing that you'll see more and more down the road, some people being estranged by that knowledge that a company would present about that customer.
Yeah, exactly. And also that's the whole thing about third-party data as well. You don't always know that a cookie is being set. Of course, you might give consent when you actually enter a website to marketing, but you don't really know what you're actually maybe consenting to. So when the next time when you enter Facebook, you'll suddenly see an ad that is very personalized for you, but you have no idea of how you actually ended up in that target group. And that's also something that we want to make even more transparent at System Grene. We want it to be an even transaction, so that we want of course our customers to know that we want to give them relevant information, and in order to do that we would like to have some data in return in order to actually make that personalized experience. But us actually telling the customers what we are doing and how we're doing it is to us at least something that gives us more quality in the relation.
This goes back to ultimately, right? Like we can talk about the human experience of relationships, right? Trust. It's to your point, when you're buying data, and this is my understanding of it, it's also not deterministic, right? To your point, you are taking a chance that you are getting some information and making your decisions on how you're communicating with your customer based on information that may or may not be true, right? So, and I think that really segues nicely to your point as well, Renee, about trust, right? Because trust is very hard to earn, and it's extremely easy to break, right? So many customers, especially in a very competitive market dynamic, right? Something like retail, it is so gosh darn hard to acquire that user or get somebody from a top of the funnel toward a sort of campaign or initiative to actually become, what you would consider a customer. It sort of behooves a brand or an organization to really, really be sensitive and invest in the retention mechanism of that, right? And I think critical to that no matter how good I think your product is, or, how great your experience is, if the underlying feeling I think a consumer doesn't get is, I can trust this brand, I can provide them, potentially sensitive information about me, and I know they're not going to sell my email to 20 other companies. I know they're not going to, if I tell them I don't want to get, certain marketing communications, they'll listen to me.
Exactly.
And, the technology ultimately is just a tool that enables these kinds of interactions.
I think now there is an expectation from the customers that there's a certain level of transparency. So you can really violate that trust if you don't meet it. That can be a real danger. And I think it's going to be stronger and stronger going forward.
Yeah. And to us, when actually choosing a DMP, it was actually really important that the technology gave us the opportunity to actually control these kinds of permissions. So being able to actually sort out all the customers we had that didn't want to receive an email from us, or we didn't have a permission for email and stuff like that. Because as you said, Abhi, it's all about customer trust and transparency for the customer in order for them to be loyal to us again.
Yeah, it just makes me think, and I know, yeah, Renee, I think you mentioned this in our brainstorming session, but you mentioned Søstrene Grene being sort of a late bloomer, but in some ways, it's just amazing that you both got to work on this project together and just sort of have the background and experience and learnings from all your previous experiences, both on the agency side, where the market's headed. And I think the fact that you guys are from the day one building a sustainable digital experience that's sort of built on trust, that has the underlying technologies that allow you to be able to have these types of interactions with your customers. I think that's a huge leg up that a lot of legacy brands that maybe, I still work with a lot of clients that are still heavily dependent on third parties to run all aspects of their business.
But I would say it's too soon to rule out third-party data, because you still need third-party data for scale.
Of course.
So we're still also, of course, we're also dependent on it. We made a decision at Søstrene Grene that our digital strategy should not be focused primarily on third-party data, that we should do everything in our power to build up a foundation of first-party data in order to take control and also be more resilient towards Google and Apple when they make all sorts of decisions that we don't have any saying around, and so that the whole control aspect was really important for us. But also we actually able to see that when we invest in first party data and loyal customers, it actually drives really good business results. So we made some quite extensive studies, of course, before we made this decision to focus on first party data, just to see if there was a business case. And there really was. So what we saw is that when we have a person, for instance, we have permission for, and we have their email, they are just more valuable to the whole business. They have a bigger basket when checking out, and we see them much more often on our web shop making more purchase because we are able to send them relevant information. We are able to actually affect them in a really good way, marketing wise, and we can just see that it just makes really good sense. So from this year, we actually decided that 30 to 40% of our whole digital marketing budget should actually be used on driving first party data leads
initiatives. Yeah.
So of course, the CDP was a huge investment to us, but let's be honest, the CDP is only an empty technology.
That's right.
You need some fuel in order for it to actually drive. And that fuel for us is first-party data. Of course, the CDP can also process third-party data and other ID types, but the first-party data is the primary thing for us.
And you also need to take action on that data, otherwise it's also useless.
Yes,
that's right.
Just another database. Yeah. Guys, I mean it. At some point, we will have to do a part 2, because I'll be honest, there's probably 20 other questions I want to ask. And even as you're talking, there's probably 10 other things I wanted to talk about. But for the sake of this episode, and I know I want to be respectful of time, we talked a lot about data, and we talked a lot about major shifts in technology. But one thing that I think is just amazing, and it's so clear, I think, on this recording, the relationship, I think, Casper, Renee, you both have, sort of personally working together, but also sort of, agency and brand working together, right? And I would be remiss if I didn't, on the Connected podcast, talk about how people connect to make great things happen. I would love to hear from both of you. What goes into, and what advice would you have for a brand agency relationship, and why do you think both of you have found so much success in that sort of partnership between Vertica and Søstrene Grene?
So I think one of the things that really important for us as a company at Vertica is the partnership part of it. So we go into relationships thinking that we need to create a partnership. So we want everybody to feel like one big team where we solve problems together, and that of course requires trust. So we try to be open and transparent and honest about what we know and what we don't know, and we speak openly about issues. But we also try and bring our knowledge to the table and speak our mind and take responsibility for creating the right products, not just being a tool for some other company to use, but we bring our souls into it and try to be human beings in it. And we also expect the company, so we make demands, so you can say, we expect the company to also go in with that approach. And if we both do that, we just see it's just a joy working together, and usually we create really great products by doing that.
For us, it's basically the same. Actually, it's all about transparency, being open. So if there is something, if we made a mistake, we made a mistake. Let's be open and honest about that, because it gives us the best options to move ahead. So that's actually what I would say is the most important part. And of course, also trust. We are also a customer for Vertica, and to us, for us to actually invest so heavily in Vertica, of course, also demands this a portion of trust. And of course, we've actually pretty much all our digital investments has actually been with Vertica. So that also proves, I hope, to Vertica that we really trust in them, and we really appreciate this open and honest partnership that we have, because to us that's also the foundation of a really good partnership.
I couldn't agree more, right? I think when you start to worry about, I think, transactional elements, like, hey, how can I get, so-and-so to buy so much, or something breaks and, it's not my fault, right? Like, I didn't do it. I mean, those are the types of things that I think are very short-sighted. And I think you very much so know, like, and I think this is true with, agency, but also technology partners, vendors of all sorts. It's, there's this very different mindset in that, hey, this is a transaction and this is a relationship. And I think what you guys are both saying is, and there's a time and place for both. There's certain instances where, maybe everything doesn't have to be a partnership, but, you talk about something like bringing to life a beloved brand into the digital world. This can't be a transactional type of partnership.
Exactly. We need to be humans, and we need also be able to talk about things. So that's also what we like about Vertica. You can always call them.
Yeah.
and have a nice conversation.
No chatbots at Vertica anytime soon.
We really enjoy the partnership with Vertica.
Awesome. So then, guys, I know we're close to time, but I got to get into the fun part of this chat, right? There's
there's more fun to come.
Oh yeah, there's two questions. I mean, these are going to be quick, but the first one I have to ask you guys, and I'm already going to say you have to eliminate Søstrene Grene. That can't be your answer to this question, but which I know we all love. But for both of you, and I'll start with Renee, as a consumer, so as an individual citizen of the world, what is your favorite brand or experience, and why?
I have to say Apple. I think they're a next level to the experience you can bring into a brand. The whole way they present new products, I just think is amazing. Steve Jobs was amazing. I'm a huge Apple fan myself. I have basically all the gear they have out there. So, I would have to say Apple. Also, us being Søstrene Grene, I would say that's something we aspire for.
Yeah. That's no disagreements from me there. And Casper, what about yourself?
Yeah, well, Apple is a great product, but yeah, well, I feel actually the need, and I'm not biased here, I promise you that, to bring in Søstrene Grene, because I think they really, really do something that is remarkable that I haven't seen anywhere else in the world actually, because what they do about their content and the tone of voice they're setting, they have a relationship that's. I've been working with many companies, and what I see is whenever you have content, that's secondary to the actual products. But for Søstrene Grene, they are basically equal. So what you do with the product, how you explore it, and the stories you tell about the product, they set a tone that's unprecedented, I think, anywhere in the world. So that's really an awesome achievement that the team have been doing there. But of course, you said I couldn't bring that up, so setting that aside. So the one thing I thought about was Adidas. They do well as a D2C brand. They have really a lot of pictures, and pictures are just essential for a lot of customers, for me as well as a consumer. And they have so smooth processes for delivery and return. And also they have sustainable alternatives to many of their products. And they have some of the lightest packaging I've ever seen. So there's just around the original packages, but not compromising that in any way. So there's so many things that they really do well. So it's just a smooth experience.
Well, listen, this is coming from experts of the industry, but look, shout out to Apple, Adidas, and of course, Søstrene Grene. And guys, I'm telling you, you've pumped me up now. I think when we get off this call, I got to know where the US location is, or the closest location to me. I really can't wait to actually check out a store. I just
need to say this, Abby. I did not pay Casper to say that.
Yeah, no, I know that. No, that was very genuine and from the heart. But I'm genuinely excited. Okay, guys, the next set of questions are rapid fire. So this is they're typically yes or no. You sort of have two choices, but I'll go. Renee, I'll start with you. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Casper?
It's okay when it's fresh, but not if you put the pineapple on the pizza before it goes into the oven. That's a definitely no.
Okay, fair enough. Yep. Casper, how about you? Would you do pineapple, or do you prefer pineapple on pizza?
I'll say bring it on. I'm all about exploring. So whatever you throw at me, I'll try it out.
Okay. All right. So no maybes, and very conditionally. Conditionally, yes, but generally no. Okay, guys, winter or summer sports? Casper, I'll start with you this time.
Winter sports.
Yeah. Okay.
So no explanations, just yes or no.
Oh, you can? No, it's totally up to you. You could explain if you'd like, but I don't. Being in Denmark, I couldn't. I don't know. I'd be interested. I don't want to bias your thinking, but
I think it's because it's exotic for me. There are no mountains in Denmark, so.
Fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough.
And not much snow.
I would have to go with summer sports. Also, seeing that the summertime in Denmark is very scarce, so you really need to enjoy the summer once it's here.
Okay, so purely from a scarcity perspective,
exactly.
But
yes, yeah. That's also I know. I don't know what you call it, but football in Europe is really big, and there's just something about football in the summer. On the green lawn where it's sunny and it's lovely.
Awesome. Okay, so then we'll get into sort of, you could call this a summer. It's definitely a summer sport, but better footballer, Messi or Ronaldo?
Ooh.
And yeah, Renee, with you first this time.
I know I mentioned football before, but I'm actually not a really big football fan. So I would have to go with Ronaldo because he just has a really extraordinary appearance.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a football fan either. I only watch the World Cup when that's on. But when I see them play, I don't like Portugal because they play too defensive. So I will go for. Was it Messi, the other one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Messi. Yeah. This is, believe me, I've had my last guest on. It was a something like this, three folks, and we couldn't agree on Messi and Ronaldo. But those are, you can't go wrong either way. Okay, guys, and Casper, you first this time. Frozen yogurt or ice cream?
Ice cream any day.
Yeah.
I love ice cream.
Yeah.
Don't try to mess around with ice cream and frozen yogurt. That's strange. Ice cream.
Listen, anyway, Renee, how about you?
I have to respectfully disagree. I went abroad for my third semester on my bachelor degree and went to San Diego, where I actually tried frozen yogurt stores for the first time, and where you actually have all the different kind of what it's called, things you put on top.
Yeah, the toppings.
It's fantastic. Casper, you need to try that.
I'll try anything.
Yeah. Or maybe we combine the two ideas. We'll make an ice cream store, soft serve, and then have all the frozen yogurt toppings.
Exactly.
I feel like there's a saying, right? You either live to eat or you eat to live. And I definitely live to eat. So I'm a big foodie. I have to ask you guys, favorite restaurant in Aarhus, or even, Denmark, if you want to expand it further. But I'd be interested to hear. Maybe Renee, we'll go with you first.
We have something that's called Restaurant One, a restaurant.
Okay.
It's a French bistro, and it's really, really nice. I wasn't sure that I like snails because it's just very different from what you normally eat. But I tried it at that restaurant just to name an example, and it was just fantastic. It was some of the best food I've ever had. So it was they just make exceptional food, and they have great wine also, which is also important to me.
Amazing. How about for you, Casper? Yeah.
I can second that. It's a great restaurant for sure. A great experience every time you go. But I think my favorite restaurant in Aarhus are probably one of two, and that depends on what kind of mentality I go in with. So Michelin level restaurants, I will go for domestic, which is in my book the best in Aarhus. But if you scale it down a couple of levels, something that you can do every second week or something like, I don't think I can take on a Michelin restaurant I need to digest that experience somehow. But the other one is close to where my house is, or my apartment is a restaurant called Herværk.
Herværk, okay.
Yeah. It's based on a book, an old Danish book about a man who decides to go just let himself fall apart.
This is amazing, guys. Okay, so it's
Casper, be honest. Did you buy the apartment just to be close to Herværk?
No, Herværk was later.
Okay.
All right. Listen, guys, I at some point, everything will align. It's a date. It's going to be beer and ice cream, and then we'll play rock, paper, scissors to figure out, which of these restaurants we go to. But, man, this is what a treat, guys. I mean, just thank you so much. I mean, I genuinely feel like it was three friends sitting on a couch, having a conversation, which I think are the best conversations. Can't thank you enough.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thanks so much for listening to this conversation from Connected by mParticle. For more on this episode, you can check out the show notes and transcript on our blog. You can also subscribe to the podcast on any major podcast player. If building great customer experiences is important to you, sign up for our monthly newsletter, mPulse, which includes a very short list of the best blog articles, use cases, and industry reads from throughout the month. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.